Hey homeschool friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to an update video where I chat about how November went in our homeschool. Now, as you could probably see from the thumbnail, we're making another change. Now it's not major and it's not math. It's not math, in case that's what you were thinking from last month's video. I totally understand why you might be thinking that. It's not math. But it's just the last adjustment I hope to make this year of like the 2024-2025 homeschool year. I feel like this fall has been a little chaotic. It's been good. All the changes have been good. So let's start with that. Like, I sometimes feel anxiety when I feel like I'm changing all the time and I'm like, oh, I'm adjusting too much. I should just stick with things. And I'm sticking with math, like I already mentioned. But everything I have changed has been good. It's been for the positive. And my husband always has to remind me of that because I do kind of have that anxiety of like, I'm changing too much. I should just be consistent. Everybody says be consistent, right? Yes, but. And so that's what we're gonna be talking about. We're gonna be talking about November, how things went in life and family subjects and individual subjects for my 5th grader, 4th grader, and twin 1st graders. So stay tuned and we're gonna chat through all the things. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back. So before we hop in, I always do need to say a quick shout out to Sonlight for sending me a lot of this wonderful curriculum in exchange for my honest review, which you always get in these videos. And I have been making some day in the life videos of a lot of the Sonlight curriculum we use, just to kind of give you an idea, because I get a lot of questions about Sonlight. And so I hope those types of videos are helpful. But anyway, let's just hop into life. Life, oh my, I feel like it's okay. It's just, I'm feeling a lot of overwhelm. Within this past month, I've realized that part of my autoimmune, there may be some other things going on. It might be some other additional inflammatory issues, and it's not bad and it's not terrible. It's just overwhelming. It's just to the point where it's like something else. I'm not really handling things all that well. On top of the fact that holidays are stressful for me. You guys, it's two-part. I love the holidays. I love the joy of all that. I hate the management and the organization and the fact that I'm having to do all these things. And I don't mind like giving out gift ideas and all that. I kind of like the control of that. Let's just be honest. I feel like my introvertedness just gets very frazzled this time of year. So that was just kind of the background noise of my life this past November, anticipating going into December, but that's okay. Let's just move on. Let's move on to family subjects. So broadly speaking, I use our family subjects, and that's Sonlight, HBL, History, Bible, Literature, as well as Science, to gauge where I am in the year. I like to finish week 18 before Christmas, and we're on track to do that, which I really, really like. I like that that's about where we're gonna land. It helps me feel like we're pretty much where we should be. I will double check like math and language arts to make sure those subjects are also roughly half-ish way. And I will probably do that during the break. I always do. Last year, I actually made a video about how I do that. If you're curious about kind of that touch point in my mid-year assessment planning kind of season. So I'll link that video above. I don't think I'll do that again because I pretty much do the same thing every year. But my general goal for November, what my goal was for November and December, is nothing extra. Short of Advent, I'll get back to that in just a second, but nothing extra. Keep it simple as possible is my goal for these 2 months. And so hopping into history then. So like I said before, we are using Sonlight's HBLD, which is the first year of American history, as well as HBLA, which is exploring American history, that is geared towards my 1st graders. Now, it's been really good, probably my favorite still, and my kids' favorite time of day. We have some amazing discussions, even though some topics, I feel like by the time we go through all the resources for HBLD, as well as A, we've maybe talked about the Boston Tea Party like 4 times. But that's okay, that's okay. We are going through this book for HBLA. It's George versus George, the American Revolution as seen from both sides. I love this book. It's got a really fun writing style. Now, what is funny is this is a repeat book for us. I used this 4 years ago, and I thought it was harder to get through during that point in time than I do now, even though the kids I'm talking to, so they are 6. They actually just turned 7 like 2 days ago. So my 1st graders are handling this just fine, and I think it is because they have grown up with this style of learning all around them. Like we've been doing Sonlight for 4 years now. They're used to it. And so this resource, this type of resource was easy for them to handle. As where my kids, when we first started Sonlight, this was a little harder. Or maybe I wasn't as good at bringing it to life. Now I read it differently. I read it with more enthusiasm. I read it starting and stopping and asking questions. It's just different. But I highly, highly recommend this resource. Even if you're not using Sonlight, this is fantastic. All of my kids have really liked it because they all sit and listen to history at the same time. I do start with this book so that I can let the first graders go play Legos if they want, but sometimes they stay. And so we've been doing that. We've been doing the Lap book, which has been so great. I just found this resource again, so I picked this up. Famous Figures of the American Revolution. So we're gonna start doing these they're like paper doll, basically. I just had to order some of those brass brad things. I am not a crafty mom, so I didn't have any of those. And so I just ordered some on Amazon. So my daughter's gonna start cutting and making the little dolls. And she's really excited because we were waiting until we got into Revolutionary War. And we're at the very beginning of it right now. Pretty much that's what we're gonna end our semester on, is the Revolutionary War, which is just really fun. We also started watching Liberty Kids. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's so fun. They love it. We're a couple episodes in and we're just watching it on YouTube. They have the full season. I don't know, I think you can buy the discs, but I didn't. We're just watching it on YouTube and it's really, really fun. And so that's history. I mean, we're also doing states and capitals still. I'll mention that. I talked about it last time. But Bible is just, it's been okay. Now, again, I've been having a little stressy kind of season. I feel like what weighs me down sometimes is things like scripture memory and how you have to be super consistent to make it happen. And when I'm not super consistent, my kids just don't remember anything. And it feels like this just kind of uphill battle where we're not making any progress. And so I'm just tabling it for a bit. And I'm like, oh no, that seems like the worst thing to do. You should always prioritize Bible above everything else. And you know what? No, I'm okay. I'm okay. We'll pick it back up. My husband has been reading the scripture readings, like the Bible aspects, on the weekends. And so that's been good. We're going to pick back up Advent. And so I picked up this resource last year. I have a whole review. I forgot about that. I will link it above. It's a perfect little study for the ages of my kids. And it has a lot of little craft things that we didn't end up doing all of them last year. So what I decided to do was to keep the schedule from last year, which we read Jotham's Journey last year, and it came with a whole scheduler and unit study and everything. So we're gonna go off of this because the scripture is still solid. The scripture is still all the Christmas story type stuff, but I picked up a different book, and this is Tabitha's Travels. And so we're gonna just slowly start reading this, starting the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and work through this in the evenings, I think. That's my plan. This is just our evening time. We have the Advent wreath with the candles that the kids like to light. And so we're gonna do this. We have some Christmas books. We'll kind of feather those in. I'm not gonna pile on a lot extra. Like I already mentioned, we're not doing a lot extra. And so that is Bible. As for November, it kind of fell apart, but that's my plan for December. As for literature, you guys, this is why I just love Sonlight. We finished The Witch of Blackbird Pond by Elizabeth George Spear. So good, so good. We loved it. I talked about it more last time. All of my kids liked it. Boys, girls, didn't matter. They just all really enjoyed it. They enjoyed the story. And I think it's because of the history, if I'm perfectly honest. As we were reading through all the Puritan stuff, we were able to pull this family, this little family, and Uncle Matthew into our discussions because we would talk about the colonists and how they were responding to England and the sugar tax and the stamp act. And I would talk about it in light of a character in here called Uncle Matthew and his strong opinions towards American independence and England overstepping and all of this stuff, which is very much talked about in this book. So what was fun is it put a fictional person into the discussion when we were discussing our actual history books. And I think that helped the learning significantly. And so that's why these kinds of stories really, really help. And then this book, we're like a chapter away from ending this. I was gonna read it last night and I forgot. But it's The Sign of the Beaver by Elizabeth George Spear. So I didn't realize, I'm not quite sure how I didn't realize that, but it's the same author. This though is about a boy in Maine where he and his dad had gone up previously to get a plot of land to clear it and build a cabin, a house for his family. And then the mom and younger children were going to come later. And that's what happens, is that the dad leaves the son by himself to go get the rest of the family. And this is what the boy goes through. So he's like 12, 13 years old in this book. And he has some interactions with the local Indian tribe and another boy from that tribe. And just their relationship, their interactions were just so interesting. And my son loved this book, but my daughter did too. It's just a very well written, like she really draws you into this time frame and this story and what it might have felt like on both sides. And you could see the character growth from both angles, especially Matt, our main character, as he came in with kind of some preconceived notions about the Native Americans and how that changed as he kind of got to know this Indian boy. So it's so good. And I think we're reading Johnny Tremaine next, which makes complete sense since I think that's very Revolutionary War. So read alouds, check. Awesome, amazing. Science-wise, that was my latest day in the life video, was talking through science. I was talking through what I'm really liking about the Science D program. And I held up this book because this is the one we're currently reading through. Finished up kind of the interesting animals, and now we're moving on to Planet Earth. I'm really liking it, you guys. And I talked about this a bit in that video where I was trying to explain that the levels do increase in depth and complexity and how much is taught, like between like Science A, which is where my twins are, and Science D. They are expected to know more. And actually my daughter, my 9.5-year-old, she's in 4th grade, she decided she wanted to start reading this herself because my son is doing that. We've been working on that this year. He reads it and then he works through the activity sheets. She wanted to try it. I'm like, okay, go ahead and try it. And so she's liking it. She's also more geared to liking science than my son. And so she enjoys it. I let her use the book with the worksheets. I don't think it needs to be kind of a testing situation. It's very much like, can you figure this out? And so I think that's been going really well. Now, we did just get the videos. I haven't even looked at them. As you maybe saw from the thumbnail, I just got a package from Sonlight. There's other things in here. These are part of the changes we're making coming the month of December. But I also picked up the science videos for D, which I had no idea were available until I made that video and someone commented and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that we could have those. So I picked those up, and that's just really nice because it'll be nice on some of the weeks, like maybe this weekend when we usually do science experiments on Saturdays, but we have like 4 ballet performances for my daughter, and so it's just crazy. So we might need those science videos. So I'm really happy I now have those. I'll let you know how that goes as we get going. I'll kind of include those in my updates, but I'm excited. I'm excited we're doing that. As for Science A, like I mentioned, the fact that I'm also doing Science A with my boys. We took a bit of a break, or we're in a break season because their main resource went back into animals, and we had just done a ton of animal work with Science D. And so we're kind of just breaking until week 16, which I guess is coming up soon. It might be after Thanksgiving. We're gonna pick back up Science A when it starts talking more about human body. And so I do love that about the Sonlight Science, is it kind of goes topic by topic. So that was family subjects. Now let's move on. Let's move on to my kiddos and their individual subjects and where I'm making a change. And oh my gosh, you guys. Okay, we'll just do it. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. My 5th grader, he's doing great. We'll start math, Saxon, 6'5", fantastic. He's doing just fine. I have to help him for sure. We do some teaching, but mostly it's Nicole, the math lady, and he does really, really well. Math is not the issue. Language arts isn't necessarily even the issue, but I need to change what we are doing, which is logic of English. Okay, we're just pausing. I love this program. I think it's so in-depth. I think it's so good. What I'm struggling with is we are both burnt out by the time we get to this. There are so many needs on my time with 2 first graders, teaching phonics and math, early foundational skills that takes time. With the fact that my daughter needs more of me for math, that takes time. We were getting to it, but we were doing it very quickly, and we were both just fatigued by the time I got to my son and got to this program. And that was upsetting me, and it's been upsetting me for a couple months, and I wasn't sure what to do. I feel like I was chatting with my husband because I feel like this is such a good program. And that's the hard thing about homeschool, right? Where you're like, I believe in this program. I think it's good. He likes it. I like it. Can we lift it right now? No. And that stinks. Do you know what I mean? It feels like I could keep putting more and more on myself, but I'm not doing well with that. It hasn't been going well. It's just been causing more and more stress. And so we're pausing. We're pausing this for a bit, especially for the month of December, is what I decided. And I talked to my son about this. I got his buy-in. We chatted about why. The main reason why is content. So Logic of English covers phonics, grammar, vocabulary, and spelling. Our main need for this child is spelling. Both of my older kiddos, when we do standardized testing, that is where they score the lowest. I am naturally not a very good speller, so I empathize with their spelling struggles. And this does a good job of teaching it in depth. And it's very much integrated within what we're learning for phonics, within what we're learning for vocabulary. The spelling is tied into all of that, which is a good thing, but in a way, it dilutes the spelling a bit, even though that's what I want that program for. So what we're doing is I decided I'm going to take a very similar program because I recently, within the last 6 months, did a kind of big spelling comparison video. And the spelling curriculum that I think is the most closely related to Logic of English is all about spelling. It's very rules-based. It's very practice, dictation, constant review of what is known and the different sounds of each phonogram, things like that. It is thorough. It is teacher intensive. So I feel like we've used it in the past and I had to drop it for that reason. So you might be asking, why am I picking it back up? The reason is because that's the only thing we're going to focus on. And after chatting with my husband about that, I was like, what I have on the forefront of what I want for my son for this year is spelling and writing. And we'll get back to the writing in just a second because I'm really happy with it. Spelling and writing. And the writing we kind of fixed this last switch. We've been switching so many things. We fixed that this last switch and that's been going really well. So I'm going to chat about that when I talk about Sonlight Language Arts. But spelling has just been lagging. It's been this thing that, you know, when you do something because you're like, well, this I believe in. I stood behind this program. I wanted this program to work. And I still do. I still stand behind it. I just don't think it's working right now. So we are going to switch to all about spelling. Now I have level 1 and level 2. And in this box is level 3 and a few other things, which I actually hadn't opened until just now, only because it just came in the mail yesterday. All about spelling, level 3. I'm just double checking that's what I got. Level 3, which is the new color edition, which is crazy town. But we have everything for level 1 and level 2. I just didn't think it was necessary to pick up level 1 and 2 in color when we have it all, and I can teach with that. So my plan for him is to breeze through level 1 and level 2 to make sure we have all those concepts, to make sure all the spelling rules are the same, because it is a different program. It is not the same program, but it teaches similarly. And then I wanted to have this on hand. That's my plan. And so then if you're thinking, well, what I was thinking, it's like to replace Logic of English with just all about spelling isn't enough, because it also covered phonics, vocabulary, and grammar. Now, phonics, I'm not too worried about. Phonics is very interwoven with spelling, which I think all about spelling is going to keep some of those phonics skills strong. But grammar and vocabulary, I decided to just pick up grammar workbooks and vocabulary workbooks, and that is how the language arts for Sonlight is set up at this level. We are on Sonlight Language Arts Level D, which is my next kind of day in the life, week in the life video planned is Language Arts D. But there are the optional texts above of Grammar Ace, as well as all the Wordly Wise. And so I picked up Grammar Ace for my son, and he's just going to independently work through this. And some of it will be very much a review because he learned a lot last year with Logic of English. I think he'll be fine with this. We talked about maybe doing the online Logic of English, but he did not want another online program. And so he's going to do this independently with me, obviously checking in on him, as well as I decided on Wordly Wise 4 because this one was the one that was recommended to go with Language Arts D. So I just picked this up for him and we're just going to kind of work through it slowly. I just wanted him to keep up some skills, and I also wanted to have enough stuff for him to do throughout the day because I am needed so much with my other kiddos. So I'm adding these two things. I mean, we already had typing and handwriting as some independent work that he did. I'm pretty much dropping handwriting. His handwriting is good enough. I can read it. He likes to type everything better anyway, so we're keeping typing and dropping handwriting and adding these two things for his independent work. And then we're going to keep with the rest of what we do for Sonlight Language Arts, which is the creative expression, which has been going so well. Creative expression and readers. And so for readers, this is for both big kids. It's the same for my daughter. Is they finished this one, The Secret of the Sealed Room. They read this one, which is Phoebe the Spy. They really enjoyed that. It was one of the quicker ones. It didn't take too long. There's some pictures in there. I like there's interspersed some bigger books, as well as ones that are just a little bit easier and more fun. And now they're both reading The Cabin Faced West by Jean Fritz. And they're liking it. It's just about a girl who moved to Pennsylvania, left all her friends, and they built a cabin. And so it seemed very appropriate to the time frame. So these are the readers. So that's my son's doing that. And he's also doing creative expression. Now this was actually what pushed me to make this decision as well, because we also weren't having enough time to do the creative expression or the writing, composition through Sonlight to a level that I would like to do, to give it the focus it needs, because you just cannot do everything in homeschool. I know that, and I can preach that to myself, but I feel that weight. And I'm just making the decision to focus for him on writing and spelling. So covered spelling. Writing though, once we took off Logic of English, because we did that this past week, it just was a breath of fresh air. It gave me the time to spend with him. This past week, the assignment for creative expression was a themed essay. So this is where we're taking it out of paragraphs into essays. And it was about their little reader, The Secret of the Sealed Room, and the theme of courage. And it was great because it started with brainstorming and outlining, and then a rough draft, and then polishing your rough draft to make kind of your official final draft, which you don't do every week. But he liked that we got to work on that. I let him be for a bit to work on it on his own, and then I came in and we talked about things. I was able to engage him. I was able to talk about like transition words and all these things. And so he did such a good job. I like that we had the space. We had the space. We weren't so very tired by the end of the day that we did it badly. You know what I mean? Fourth grade is actually doing good. My daughter's doing good. Math was my topic of last month. Please go see that if you didn't already see that, where I struggled. I shared my struggles with math. You know, it's getting better. We're making some strides. She's doing a little bit better. She's not missing nearly as much for a couple reasons. Drill team, like we talked about, we're doing our facts. She's doing addition and subtraction facts. She's kind of halfway through that section of drill team, and that's going really well. It's giving her that confidence. It's giving her that practice. We still do the fact sheets, but we do them kind of timed, so she never does the whole thing. And so that's helpful. She's still doing her work in my room with the candle, which is good. What I'm also incorporating is I'm giving us a review day once a week or every other week, is to stop, to look back through all her work and see where she is struggling the most. Like, is it the clock? Where it's like, well, what time would it be? 2 hours and 25 minutes later. Those are always kind of hard for her. Things like that I'll be able to pull out, and we just do a big review. What it's doing is it's slowing it down. This is a me problem. I feel like it's hard because I want to get to the end of the math program before we start next year's math program. But I've decided, and I'm letting that go, we're just going to roll over this program into next year because she is a young fourth grader. She's always been a young fourth grader. She has a summer birthday, and so every year I feel like she straddles. I talk about this on this channel all the time. And so what I'm doing is I'm just letting it go. I'm letting her be a third, fourth grader. The hard thing is she very much associates with fourth grade because of our enrichment school. So if it becomes to the point where it would probably be better if she were a third grader versus a fourth grader. I know there's no labels in homeschooling, but if that would be better, then at the time when we switch to our new enrichment school, because the current one we're using is only K through 6, I might just like have her do another 6th grade year in order to allow her to maybe graduate at 18 instead of 17. And so those are my general thoughts, is just to let the pushing go and just let her be where she's at, to really focus on the facts. Let myself roll this math curriculum over and any other things that she is doing, because for instance, I was just talking about language arts with my son. So she is also doing Sonlight Language Arts Level D, but she does it differently. It's fine and it's good. Like for instance, that same assignment I just showed you of my son's, she did a paragraph. Same prep, same like brainstorming of 3 different supporting ideas, but instead of making supporting paragraphs, she made supporting sentences. She loved it. It was fine. When I was initially trying to think about that assignment, I thought about giving her the full assignment. Then I was like, no, she doesn't need that. It doesn't bring the best out in her. And so that worked really, really well. And so she's doing the same thing though. Like I said, she's doing the readers. And for her, we started the year off with the good and the beautiful. We paused it because I didn't like the writing. I wasn't doing the spelling to start with, but we kept going with this for the grammar, and that's what we're still doing. And she also loves all the pictures and the art and the geography, so she's still doing this for mostly the grammar. So I did not get her the grammar ace like my son. I'll do that next year for her. Even though she's doing Sonlight Language Arts Level D, she's doing it differently. I think it just took me being 6 years into homeschooling to realize that I have the capability to do that. I'm just a little bit more type A than that. I have a tough time not being told exactly what to do, and I'm not as flexible as I could be, but I'm working on my flexibility. Anyway, so she's doing that, as well as I picked her up Wordly Wise. So this is her grammar and her vocabulary, and like I've already said, she's been doing All About Spelling all year, and she's been doing really well at it. We're in level 2 for her. I'm not too worried about her. She's doing typing, she's doing handwriting. I feel like the math confidence has allowed her to be more confident across the board, and I couldn't be happier. I mean, it's not perfect. There's still days she misses like half her math problems, but her latest test, she only missed 4 of 20 instead of 9 of 20, if that makes sense. And so I'm happy. I'm happy with where she's at. So that leaves me then with my first graders. Like I said, they just turned 7. In the last video, I mentioned the fact that we had officially made the switch into Abeka grade 1. Abeka, it's good, but sometimes I get a little annoyed at it. It's just a lot. And I've mentioned before, we tend to like X out half of the work on the worksheets. I still do that. That's still fine. As for phonics, what I'm realizing for them, even though some of these special sounds, all of the special sounds so far that we have learned in grade 1 are a rollover from K5. They're just at a faster pace. So we're still in this review, but yet they're not quite clicking on some of it. And a lot of it is the 2-vowel rule and the 1-vowel rule and when to use a long vowel. And what's a long vowel say again? Oh, right, it says its letter name. And they're not quite making those connections as fast as I feel like they maybe should be at this part of the program. And so what we're doing is we're slowing down. We're taking the phonics at like 3/4 speed. There's often a phonics review section written into the instructor's guide, and so I'll use the phonics review for a day instead of going on to the next lesson. Or there's a lot of reading and there's a lot of like practicing with all these special sounds. And the thing is, there's like AM reading and PM reading and all of these worksheets and extra resources, and it's too much. My 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds can't do that much. They get tired. Their brains get fatigued, even though I don't do like phonics and then math for them. We do phonics and then we take a big break and then they do math. So they're not doing their like big brain subjects right back to back. But the amount of work that is assigned in a lesson of Abeka phonics is just too much. And so we're slowing down. And that's okay, because I remembered that like my big kids, they did this program in 2nd grade, and it was the program that taught them to read. And I think it will teach my twins to read. I think I just needed to remember my son was like 7.5. My twins have been like 6, just now turned 7 sort of idea. So they're younger than when their siblings went through this exact section. And so we can slow down because there's no race. My big kids learn to read and they're reading great and they're reading a ton. So when my twins learn to read, it will be fine. I just can't keep pushing them or we're gonna have frustration. I'm kind of feeling that. We've kind of reached that point where I need to start slowing the bus down, if you will. But yet, math, we're also doing Abeka math. Now, they're not feeling that. They know those addition and subtraction facts through 6 sort of idea. So they're doing really well with that program. What's driving me bananas is the Abeka math instructor's guide. It's so detailed and so over the top that like I have to spend some time like reading through it in the morning and being like, no, I can just write that on a whiteboard. I don't need all these things. I don't need the instructions to be 3/4 of a column to just review between numbers and things like that. I'll just put it on a whiteboard. So I'll pull manipulatives, but I won't pull all the manipulatives, and I won't teach it exactly how they teach it when it's just a little bit much. And maybe it's partly because my twins are understanding the math a little bit better, so I don't need to do that, right? But it just kind of is like a mental slog for me. And maybe I'm just in a season where I just need a break. And I know that. These programs haven't affected me or made me so annoyed this much in the past. And so I probably just need a break. But we are doing good. They are doing good. We're kind of just doing a little bit more, slowing down on phonics, keep going on math, and they're happy. They love it. They love homeschool. And I mean, yes, I do get some pushback on some days, and some days there's tears, only because they are competing with each other, not because I'm pushing them so hard. It's mostly because they're mad at each other, and that starts the emotions. And then when the emotions start, it's very hard to do math and to do phonics, as we all know. That's been November. That's been the fall. We're making a few more changes, and I am hoping that this is it, that we can find our rhythm and our groove in December, but mostly start of the new year of 2025. And so I hope you enjoyed the video. My gosh, I feel like I am all over the place, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, but it is real to life. It's really what's going on, and I hope it's useful to you to hear kind of how I'm processing through things. I do appreciate your guys' comments always, and so yeah, that's November. Here's to a better December and a better 2025. Let me know how you have been doing. Let me know how you're going into the holidays, and if that is just the most joyful time, please tell me that below, because I need to vicariously live through you all right now. But anyway, that's what I have. I hope you all are doing well. If you can't think of anything to say, maybe leave me a little Christmas tree, because it's almost December and I'm very excited. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel if you want to, and I will see you guys in the next homeschool video. All right, take care.